Okay, here we go. So I just pulled the engine out of this. There's a separate video on that, and yet another video on pulling the bed. Now it's time to take this thing apart. You can kind of see I already took it apart a little bit because that's how I got it out. So if you want to see how that comes out, there's the engine removal video kind of shows that. This is the point where I'm at. Time to get into the crankcase. There it is. Let's see. And then once we get this cover off and this cover off, then we'll be able to split the case and get the crank replaced. So, starting with the easy stuff, pull out these lifters. And they should, if they're in good shape, they should pull out pretty easy. That one's pretty good. That one's really good. That one's really good. I'm not reusing these lifters. If you're planning to reuse your lifters, that one's stuck. If you're planning to reuse your lifters, you usually want to put them, make sure that they go back in the same hole with the same push rod. Label them with some tape or whatever you got to do, but you want that they wear a certain way on the cam, and then they wear a certain way on the lifter, so, or on the push rod, so you want them to go back in the same place. This lifter is stuck. Oh yeah, it's really stuck. So gonna have to leave that one in, and once the crankcase is busted apart, I might just have to push it through the other direction. So I bet you once we get the cam out, that cam lobe's probably pretty messed up too. In case you're wondering why this has to be replaced, you got one good connecting rod there, and you got this guy. Can't really hear it, or can't see it, but you can hear it. This one. This one. So obviously that was the knocking sound. Alright, I moved it up a little bit, so hopefully the lighting will be a little better and everything should be a little better. So still, for whatever reason, the camera doesn't want to pick up the crank. But anyway, so I'm going to start with some of the easy stuff. That, like this dipstick's just going to get ruined if I leave that on. You can easily take that out while it's still in the engine compartment. I just didn't. So it looks like it's just a couple of 8mm bolts. Oh, that one, we need an extension on that one. But I mean, technically you could just leave this on, but you got to kind of roll this engine around a lot, and it's not worth taking the chance of bending it or snapping it off. There we go. This guy is going to need a wobbly extension or something. There we go, just like a 3-inch extension will work. And there are, I'm sure, much better sources for an engine teardown than me. I'm just doing this so that I have a whole series of this engine coming out, engine coming apart, engine being rebuilt, and engine going back in. In fact, I'll actually link a video that I've used to help me. There we go, just wiggle that out. Okay. That I use to help me quite a bit. But, I mean, my video should be pretty good too. We'll see when it's all done. I will end up cleaning up these bolts and stuff, but I'm just going to put them back in for now. So I know where they came from, I know where they go. I'm not going to crank it down, just enough to keep it in there. Okay, and then some other stuff that was kind of, oh, here's another little sensor right here that was in the engine bay. Very, very difficult to access, but now very easy. You can get it. I'm pretty sure that I could have taken it out in the engine bay, but knowing that the engine was coming out, like, I just didn't want to, just didn't see the point in fighting it. Every bolt on this thing fights the whole way out. Go. Yeah, it's got some metal and some burnt oil on there. Let's see, and I like to put the bolts back in, but that one's pretty exposed, so I think I will just try to keep it in the sensor. And I've got a bucket of parts over there that came out while it was while the engine was in. So I'm going to keep these separate so that I remember to put these in before. Actually, you know what? This can go in when the engine's in. But this one, I want to kind of keep here so that I remember to put it in before I put the engine back in. Gosh. Other than that, this one can't come out till the cover's off. Okay, that's pretty much it for things that just don't need to be there. Wow, this nut is very corroded. That's going to be the next thing I take off. And gosh, that's still in pretty good shape. I see a lot of people talk about this being a really weak link on the RZR 800. This is the water pump impeller. They melt and just fail quite a bit, so I got an aluminum one. But that one still looks brand spanking new. Okay, and that doesn't put up much of a fight. It's a 13 millimeter. I just had to hold on to these the connecting rods here, and then I just twisted it with the other hand, and it broke loose pretty easy. And I got my impeller from Rev6. Rev6, if you ever watch this video, you should include a new nut with your impeller. Because I'm sure everybody else's nut probably looks like that too. And it's a nylock, so I'm probably going to need to replace that. Yeah, not too bad at all. And the seal was still doing its job, obviously. Okay, so that does it for all the just the loose stuff that might have got damaged or was in the way. Now we can take off this cover. See all the bolts there. Let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bolts to get that cover off. And it looks like they're all 8 millimeters. Okay, so they're all loose, and although I'm sure it would be hard to mix them up just because the differences are obvious, I just figured make it real easy and just kind of leave them all in there. Something like that. And here we go. Alright, so we got to get a puller out for that. Okay, well, you won't see me using power tools very often because I like to feel the bolts come out, see if there's anything wrong, you know, if the threads are galled up or whatever. But this is where it'd be really nice to have an impact, just to kind of shock this bolt loose. The way I'm trying to do it is I've got the connecting rods there, just got a ratchet through there to keep the crank from spinning, and then I'm trying to pop this off. It's a 22 millimeter, but man, it's fighting pretty hard. So let me see if I can break that loose and come back. Okay, so it took a pretty good smack with the hammer to get that sucker broke loose, but once it was loose, it was pretty easy. I'm just trying to keep these parts together up here. Got the reluctor wheel with its nut there. Now this part has to be pulled off. If you don't already have a puller, I got this one from Pittsburgh. Let's see if it has all the bolts we need. Okay, so far so good. It did have 3 of those bolts. It doesn't say what size they are, so let's see. Actually, I think the box. Yeah, sorry, the box doesn't say what size they are. But it's got all these different cone tips too. I used the smallest one. You can kind of see in there. Now, need to twist that. And it looks like a 14 millimeter fits on it the best. I'm not going to be able to do it on camera because I'm probably going to have to fight that one too. So I'll do that off camera, get that broke loose, and we'll see that wheel come off. Okay, so if you've got an impact, that'll be super easy. I would just suggest that you lift the end. Okay, so I had a little camera malfunction doing some of the stuff. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit so I can show. I was able to get this off without an impact, but it was really difficult. If you got an impact, you'll be way better off with an impact. If not, just be really careful. Let's kind of go backwards here. Okay, with one hand, of course. Now keep in mind there's a keyway in there, but so I was able to get the puller on there and just smack it. I had to put this on the ground. Keep in mind you got to be really careful not to damage these bolts or the pan or anything. I was kind of using wood, but I still got some grit in the threads there. But I just used that puller, how you saw it in there, and I just smacked it with this hammer while holding this handle, and it was extremely difficult. But I did finally get it off, and then once you get it off, there's a keyway, so you don't necessarily need to mark this. But yeah, because of the way that keyway is, it'd be hard to put it on wrong. But if you want to mark it, it's never a bad idea. To be better safe than sad, huh? And then the next thing is this stator, and let's see, I got a little backtracking to do because I thought I was recording and I was not. But the next thing, you want to take this out because there is a washer on there that you want to make sure you don't lose on the front side and on the back side. See, it's still stuck there. So you want to be careful not to lose that stuff. Put that off to the side somewhere safe. And then obviously my keyway is already out, but you'll want to make sure you pull that keyway out and put it somewhere safe as well, so that doesn't get lost. And then these bolts that hold in the stator is attached with this wiring, so you got to get these 10 millimeter bolts out. And again, they're not super tight. And then these Allen bolts that hold the stator in are a 5 millimeter, just like a 5 millimeter Allen. Just twist those guys out, and I'm just going to kind of try to let them stay in there. Whoops. Just kind of leave them in there that way, because there are different bolt holes. I don't know if they use this on another machine or what. But that just also another way to kind of help me make sure it goes back in the same way it came out. And once these are all the way out, we'll just pull that whole thing out as one unit. Oh man, that one's gonna fight the whole way, I guess. Not much of a fight, they're pretty loose. Okay. Pull that out kind of carefully, and okay. And I guess that plate could stay in there, but I just kind of want to keep it all together here. Those, looks like those bolts are the exact same length, exact same bolt, so if you mix it up, it won't be the end of the world. Okay, so that makes it so now we can take off, this entire plate needs to come off. You can see that is a different piece there. Looks like 2 more 10mm bolts there. And nothing else, huh? That's weird. I mean, it's also technically held in with all of these bolts. They all go straight through it, but I'm just still surprised that there's only 2 bolts just holding this on. Maybe I shouldn't be surprised, but I am. Alright, and then, oh, of course I'm going to need 2 hands. Oh, there we go. Okay. Break that baby loose. We're going to see some gears here in a second. Bunch of gears. I don't see no cowboys. All I see is steers and gears. Oh, gosh. Okay, let me do 2 hands. Okay, common theme. I'm going to take these bolts out, and I'll end up putting them right back in that case, but let's just see they are, again, the exact same length. I got to put them off to the side just for a minute, because I'll probably have to tap this cover off, because it's got a, it might have sealant around there. Let's see. Yeah, that'll definitely take two hands, but probably just give it a little, well, actually, let's see. Give it just a little bit there. There we go. Okay. Oh, some gears there. It looks like that seal was still doing its job. There's no oil on the outside here. That seal was doing its job. And I don't think, in fact, I'm sure my kit did not come with those seals, so I should probably purchase those seals and replace them while I'm in here. So put those back in there, where they came from. Or I don't actually have to take this gear off, so I don't think I'm going to mess with that because my crank came with a new gear. And usually, if you're rebuilding the engine, you're going to be replacing the crank. It'd be kind of silly to go to this length and not replace the crank, because that's usually the most common failure in these is the cranks, right? I'm pretty sure. Okay, since I don't have to pull this gear off, the next thing is going to be the cam, and you'll notice there are some alignment marks here. You'll say this side up here, this side up over here, and it's got a little dot there. That's all stuff that's going to be very important to line up later. But right now, it shouldn't really matter. The goofy thing about this gear is that it is 2 pieces. So, see if I can get the right light here. You can barely see it right there. See the line? This gear is 2 pieces, so it'll spin. So I'm just going to mark. I'm going to use this mark to just line up those gears. I hope that stays, but that's not going to be the end of it. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you can even see that. So I'm going to use a marker just to line up those gears with that dot, so that it goes on the same way. But I'm also going to stick something in there, so hopefully I don't even need those lines. Just use one of these bolts that we're not using. Let's see. there's no threads in this, but these kind of thread in, believe it. For some reason, they're just that right amount of tightness. So I'm gonna just thread that in there to keep those gears lined up. But just in case it comes apart somehow, I've marked it there too. Hopefully that's through enough. Let's see. Of course not. There we go. Just kind of make sure it's all the way through there. That'll kind of keep it together. Yeah, I don't know if you can see that, but it's all the way through. So that'll kind of keep it together for when I pull it off of there. Okay, and that took two hands, obviously, but you just ever so gently get something in there. Probably a little here, probably a little here, probably a little here. Just really nice. Take your time, take it easy, and that will pop off. And then as you take it off, you'll notice not only will those gears spin, see they're trying to separate there, there's a dowel there that has to go in. So put that off to the side, put the washer back in, cup down. That's ready for later. And then this is the crank balancer, crankshaft, balancer, oil pump. You probably wouldn't need to take the oil pump off if you're not replacing it. I am, so I'm going to pull that baby out. And I don't think there's anything wrong with this oil pump. I just, I've seen so many people talking about oiling being a problem with this. And the pump that I got from Rev 6 that is soaking in oil right now. Oh, no, it's not. I thought I was soaking that in oil. Oh, I am soaking in oil, but it's not in there. Oh man, I've lost my oil pump. But I've got somewhere I've got an oil pump here that is face down and the end of it's full of oil. But it's supposed to be just like the newest revision of the oil pump. So I wanted to make sure I was using that. And then this gear will have to come off so I can get the cam out. So we'll do that one. Guess it doesn't really matter what order we go here. We're just going to move on to the oil pump, which has some, gosh, you can't see those. It has some Allen bolts inside that you can access through the holes there. They are a 5mm. You'll want a better Allen wrench than I'm using though. Let's see. Alright, so we'll get a little bit longer 5mm in there. Make sure with Allen wrenches you got to always make sure you get it really seated all the way in that Allen bolt. And then if you take a 5mm socket and extension, you get enough leverage to break those suckers loose. And then see? Oh, man, they are very tight. I guess I probably could have done this a little bit later. There's no like alignment holes with the oil pump, at least not as far as mine is concerned, because it just spins and spins and spins. It's not like the timing. The cam and the crank, of course, have to be in perfect time with each other. And the balance shaft. Okay, I guess you guys don't need to watch me do that. Okay, and I could only see 3 bolts, but there is a 4th one kind of hidden right there at the top. I guess that's why there's 4 holes, huh? And as long as, if you want to keep the bolts in there to keep them in the same place, you easily can. But if you need to pull them out, they will fit through these windows. Alright, so I'll get that one out. Once you get the mystery bolt out of there, it should just pull right out. You might have to kind of spin the gear. pull it. Make a liar out of me. Okay, and the oil pump won't come out until this gear's out. Alright, so I was thinking I might be able to get away with just cracking the case and not pulling this gear out, but not looking like that's going to happen. So pull that. This is a 13 millimeter. Pull that sucker out. That sucker out. And then, man, it takes tiny bolts to pull that out. And I definitely did not get those bolts in this kit. But I just wanted to make sure I marked it really well, so I just used that existing hole, alignment hole that's in there, and then I just tried to get it up on that gear, and then it looks like there is a keyway. Maybe. So you might not be able to put it on wrong. Not sure. But it's definitely a good idea. I mean, it's not going to hurt just to mark it, make sure I put it on the same way. Let me see if I can figure something out with that puller to get that gear off. Alright, so I'm going to try something that might be kind of stupid, but I'm going to give it a shot. Instead of using the puller, it looks like this is an M6 thread. I've got these little bolts. I think if I just tighten them into the holes, just nice and easy, just very evenly, I think I'll just be able to push that out. So I'm going to give that a shot. 10 millimeter head, M6 bolt. There's like a hardened plate that's behind this gear, so I'm not like super worried about I'm not going to grind into the aluminum. And I know pulling these gears is a pretty big topic, at least in the comments. People are always asking, like, how the heck do I pull that gear? Nothing comes with the right thread pitch. Okay, so I'm starting to push. Like, what thread pitch is it? How long do they need to be? And for some reason, nobody likes to answer that question. So let's see if I can answer that question. M6 is the right pitch. And just nice and even. I'm not going to stress any of these. Okay, there it went. Not putting any stress on any single bolt. Well, that definitely popped off, but it's still tight, so just keep going here. Let's see, I'll probably do this a lot easier with an extension. So it popped, but then it found a new set of resistance there for some reason. Let's see. Oh, you know what? It's hitting the can. Okay, never mind. You know what? It's out. I just need to take the bolts out. I'll be able to slip it out. It's hitting the can right now. Oops, wrong way. Take the bolts all the way out. Hope it still wants to fight. There we go. Okay. It's nice and easy. Pull that out. Put the bolt and washer back in there. Now we can take out these Torx bits, and that is what's holding the engine together. So I was thinking I could crack the case and just open this up that way, but not going to happen until I get at least this one bolt. Just this one bolt is holding it in, but I got to take off this thrust plate anyway. So let me do that. Okay, it looks like it is a T30. Two. Not too much resistance so far. I shouldn't say that before I get this third one. Oh, okay. Sweet. Not bad. And again, this plate, let's see. You wouldn't be able to put it in upside down or anything, but you might be able to put it in backwards. So let me just mark the top. I know I've said it a dozen times in this video already, but it doesn't take much effort. Even if this is completely unnecessary, why not just mark it so I know that the gold side up is the top. I'll write it in a few different places in case it gets washed off somewhere. Okay. Just a little insurance to get this right. And I'll be putting these bolts right back into the plate, so that'll be my first clue. Okay, yeah, I mean the bolts are tapered, so you actually don't really need to mark it. It'll be really obvious. Or the bolts, the holes. The holes for the bolts are tapered. So it'll be pretty obvious when it comes time to put it back in. And all these Torx screws are the exact same length. I don't know if you can see that. But you'll see the tapered holes. Let's see what you're seeing there. Yeah, see the holes are tapered for these to drop in. Here. So pretty obvious. Again, it didn't take much effort to put that top on there. It did turn out to be a waste of time, but not that much time. So now we got all the bolts out of the case. And then I found this spot here. It doesn't come apart very easily, I'll tell you that. Okay, there's a spot right here that you can get something like this in there. And that's how I was able to pop it apart. And then once you get it popped apart, you can use some, well, I broke that one trying to put it apart. But you can get some plastic pieces here, plastic pry bars. And this sucker should come apart. Oh, there it goes. Wow. And there you have it. Oh, there. That's metal. Metal shaving in there of some sort. Okay, so I'm going to take this in, and I'm going to get yelled at, but I'm going to take it into the kitchen. I'll take these bolts out, take that baffle out, and just clean this really well. Make sure I don't have any more metal in there. So I'll set that to the side for a second. And the crank, there's nothing holding it in there. It's not like an automotive engine where it's got main caps and stuff. It just is set in there. The case holds it in there. So yeah, you can see it. Out she comes. And now we can get a good look at that rod. That one's really tight, and this one is just rattling around. So that was the knocking sound. The bearings, gosh, the front bearings are still nice and tight. That's not bad at all. The piston rings were getting a little weak. The cylinder bores were pretty shiny. Let's see. I showed it in the other video, but you'll see in here the cylinder bores were very, very shiny. There's nothing left. I'm not sure how much of that nickel seal is still on there. And then the pistons. Pistons, you can see they were definitely rubbing against that, and they shouldn't be doing that. And the rings, I mean, the top two rings were still pretty springy, but the oil control ring is, you can see, pretty flat. It wasn't doing much. I don't have the cam out yet. The cam is stuck because the lifter right there is stuck. So let's see. Okay, well, that's got that out. The lifter's not holding it. Oh, wow. Okay. So the cam, that stuck lifter, is completely cupped. Oh man. Okay, so that cam's garbage. Let me see if I can get out of there. That sucker's stuck. Alright, so let me see if I can get this on camera, getting this out of here. Okay, you can kind of see what's going on. It's going to be hard to show. But I got no reason to be nice to this cam because it's dead. I can already see the lobe. But it's also very stuck. Not hitting anything. Man, it is really stuck in there. There we go. Okay. Man, that sucker was really stuck. Okay. And this lobe, hard to tell. This lobe's got a nice, like a nice triangular slope to it. So does this one. So does this one. This one is not the right shape. Let's see if I can show it a little better. So this lobe that had the stuck lifter is not the right shape. It's very rounded, where the rest of them have kind of a peak. So I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to use that Kalama cam, but now I know for sure that I am going to, because that one is trashed. Okay, and I would definitely recommend, as part of your engine teardown, you check your pressure regulator. So your oil filter spins on there, and then your oil pressure regulator is right there. That is a 15mm bolt. Mine's already loose. Pull that out. And as you can see, mine is very stuck. You see that? Let's see if we can get a good view of that piece right there. That's your the plunger, I guess you would call it, for the oil pressure regulator. So it's this spring goes on top of it, and of course this bolt and washer holds it in. But these are notorious for getting stuck and blowing engines, and so that actually might be part of my problem, because mine is so stuck I can't even pry it up. So what I'm gonna have to do is just try and, there's a little bit of a taper on there. I don't know if you can see that. Just a tiny bit of taper on the end. So I'm thinking if I get the end of the screwdriver and kind of wedge it in there, I might be able to push it out. Let's see what happens. That worked, so I was able to get the screwdriver in there and kind of just right on that edge, I just kind of put it in at an angle, and eventually I was able to tap it in and wedge that out. And then I used the hook, this guy, to kind of push it the rest of the way. And then I had to slam it against this board, because even after I pushed it as far as this could go, it still wouldn't come out, so I had to slam it against the board to get it out. So I'd say that wasn't working properly. It's supposed to be able to, the oil is circulating back here, and it's supposed to be able to push that up and down freely to regulate the oil pressure. So if that's not moving, then you just get stuck, either at too low or too high. I'm not sure which direction's which, but a lot of I think Polaris recommends that you change this with every oil change. They're only like $12 or something. Rev 6 makes them. I'm gonna switch mine to a pressure guard, which we'll go over that in the install video. Well, the actual rebuild, installing everything on there, the rebuild video. But the pressure guard is basically the same thing, but it's longer, so even if it gets stuck, you can just, it sticks out of this hole, so even if it gets stuck, you can pull the sucker out. And that, so if I didn't have my engine apart, there would have been no way to get that out. So that's why I recommended doing that as part of the engine teardown, to make sure that valve's not stuck. And I personally don't think I would ever trust the stock system again, because man, you'd have to pull the whole front of your engine off to get that oil pump out in order to take that out if it was stuck as bad as this one was.